Luxury cars are not just about big sedans or burly SUVs. This is also the epitome of luxury. The Mini Cooper D 5-door hatchback has a lot of technology packed inside, has pretty fancy seats and a lot of other aspects along with the promise of a good drive. Does it manage to deliver? Well, let's find out. So the Mini Cooper is all about the drive, but Mini doesn't want it to be just about the driver. There's a lot of entertainment over here. There's a lot of infotainment services over here. And interestingly, this is not a touchscreen panel. So this is one unconventional bit. You control it from a controller that resides right beside the driver's left armrest. And you get buttons over here for media, radio, telephone, navigation. You get the menu button and the controls as well. So I can control everything from these buttons over here. We'll quickly give you a look around of it. You get your office contacts, which includes your stored contacts, if you have any calendar entries, if you'd have any messages and any new messages as such, and it also syncs with your notes. Now beyond the office contacts, you get your telephone services so that you can make calls at ease. You get your last number redial, that's speed dial of sorts, received calls, dialed numbers. So you get all the recent lists over here. Moving beyond that, you get your multimedia setting, which is of course music collection if you have any local music stored here. And all paired devices appear in the external devices list. So once you select it and you select your own phone, it shows up the songs that you can play over here, which includes now playing, and you can search for music. You get access to your playlists, you can import new music, and of course the fast forward and rewind or previous track and next track buttons. Once you go back from the music, you get an equalizer. You also get external app support. So if you have Spotify installed and if you can use Spotify, unfortunately which is not in India, you can use that too to stream music directly to this system. You can go to sound and you get controls for treble and bass, the balance between left channel audio and right channel audio, and the fader, and certain volume settings. For instance, the amount of volume you can get at when you're driving at speed, and of course the gong, and you also get telephone volume settings which you can access only when you are in call. So that's about the music setup. Beyond that, you get the standard FM AM ready radio and the navigation system, which is also pretty interesting. It's a really neat system. You get to input your destination over here, where you can select which state you're traveling to, just add your postcode and the street name, and you get a circular dial to add text. For instance, if we select Delhi and then we go to the place, so this is how you can select alphabets for where you're going to. So that's another pretty interesting and pretty easy to use. Despite not being a touchscreen, it's not a big hassle, so to say, as much as we would imagine if this is not touch. You also get recent destinations, places where you've recently put into the navigation system. You get points of interest which are around you. So apart from that, you also get address book, which in case you have verified addresses stored in your phone with location, you can choose to display your contacts over here and navigate to them with ease. And save trips, of course, if you've taken trips and you want to save the route here so that you can access it later. They are for recently taken trips or frequently taken trips, so to say. You can save them here, and you also get your GPS coordinates. The map itself looks somewhat like this. So it's a 3D layout which looks quite interesting. You can zoom in or zoom out with the central button over here, depending on the kind of view that you are looking for. So that's with the sat-nav unit. Apart from that, you get the regular settings where you get to choose all the settings from your instrument cluster. You get your control display, which gives you drive brightness at night and the driving information. You get to control your central display, time and date, language and units, touchpad controls which only come up when you are on the interactive map, and connections of course for Bluetooth, which you can access from here. You can pair new devices, or you can remove new devices. Going beyond connections, you get your sound settings, which we previously showed, and you go to speed, which can show you a speed warning as you would prefer the car to show. Climate control settings, and these are pre-destined climate control times that you can choose if you'd want your car to remain at a comfortable temperature before you walk in, so that is there as well. Lights for the car, you get ambient lighting. You can not choose the tone, but you can of course choose the brightness of the light that will be on. And in terms of exterior lighting, you get your home lights that will remain on for 30 seconds after you leave, and a one-touch triple turn signal for the indicators. Daytime driving lights, DRLs, if you'd want them or not, you can select or deselect them, and the welcome lights that will light up as soon as you enter the car. You get a green mode driving, which tips your speed limit at 130 kilometers an hour. You get more eco-friendly climate control and coasting. Apart from that, you get your door settings, which can control all your doors that you can locking settings that you can control from here. And then you get your profiles and the software update for the infotainment system, which brings up a pretty comprehensive settings unit that you get for the infotainment system. Beyond that, you get vehicle information, which gives you all your drive statistics. You get something called minimalism, and which is active only in green mode. So if you go here, it can show you your drive statistics based on how you drive the car, and it will give you tips on how to get better eco-friendly performance from your car. A quick reference guide is there. You get a picture search, an owner's manual, and an onboard computer that will give you the range, distance to destination if you've placed it on the navigation. It will also give you the time of arrival, the present mileage that you're getting, and the average speed at which you've traveled, including traffic. You get a trip meter display over here as well, which you can reset at your preference. And you get vehicle status, which tells you about flat tire monitor settings. You get engine oil level. You get performance reset so that you can get new statistics on if you'd want. You can choose to measure the engine oil level so that you're always in the know. And of course, it'll give you service requirement updates as well. And then there's something called driving excitement, which gives you a measure of the power and the torque that you're getting from the car. And of course, so you get sports instruments, and you get vehicles and surroundings, which shows that your range is okay and it's good to drive. So that's your vehicle information, and apart from that, you get a suite of apps which you can connect via USB, and you open Mini Connect it, and as soon as you do that, you can see that your phone gets synchronized to the system, and you get your mobile care mini hotline and a connection assistant as well. And you get certain apps via Mini Connected, which gives you sports instruments, a force meter, which well, it's pretty self-explanatory, and of course calendar, a streetwise navigation system, and of course Spotify music streaming service. So that's all of the things that the infotainment system comes with, along with a pretty easy to operate analog instrument panel to use all of this, along with buttons over here for quick setup, which you can see how the touchpad works over here. And it's not touch operated over here, but it's sensitive to touch on this part of the infotainment system. This of course is the volume knob and the power on off for the infotainment system, and you get an entire LED which changes according to the actions that you do. So all of that completes the really comprehensive infotainment package inside the Mini Cooper D. Now the air conditioning system inside the Mini Cooper D does seem a little underpowered, especially when you're sitting under direct heat and your cabin is already heated. Of course, you can choose a predefined time for the climate control system to get on, but if you haven't done that, you'll have to wait a little bit or turn up the blower. But that ends up in a slightly noisy experience. For instance, right now we have the blower at almost full and it is a little noisy. It doesn't feel unrefined, but it does feel a tad bit too noisy for a car of this stature. You get the dual zone climate control system where you can control your car temperature from the chrome inlaid knobs. You can of course tone the blower down as and when you would need. You also get automatic climate control system and passenger airflow, which are pretty neatly shown by these LEDs, and they look really nice for the aesthetic appeal. You get multiple airflow modes that you can choose, of course, and to the bottom of the chrome LED laden knobs that look really nice, you get a few plastic buttons for maximum AC, standard AC on off switch and the air direction control, which brings up a fairly comprehensive climate control unit in the Mini Cooper D. Now, one of the major things about the Mini Cooper experience is the ambient lighting system. You get it in the door inserts, up beyond your door handle, and of course on the central console, which is governed by this big LED semicircular strip, which looks really nice, and it also adds a lot of function to the car. For instance, when I control the climate control system, you get two LEDs, blue for the left channel and red for the right channel, which shows what your temperature is at, and as you change the temperature they also change color, which looks really nice and of course shows also how your AC is functioning. You also get LED for volume. As you can see, you tone it down and the LED slowly goes down with a very nice, elegant, exuberant appeal to it. You also, as you change the settings and you enter any of the car modes which are signified with the blue color, the entire LED will glow blue, and similarly, which if you enter a system with green color, the entire system will glow green, which on an overall term adds a lot of aesthetic appeal to the Mini Cooper D and makes you feel really nice when you're sitting inside the cabin. Now for the music control, you get a pretty decent interface which does look nice with the album art and all the settings on the left side. The entire car has 10 speakers and the entire sound is pretty wholesome and very solid. It has this woody undertone which makes it sound very premium, and on an overall term it gives you a very strong bass, good treble feedback and an overall cohesiveness to the entire audio, which also contributes to the cabin experience. The interface somehow lacks a play pause button, which does seem a little weird to us, but apart from that you do get a currently playing visual. You get to search for music when you're connected to your phone, you get your playlists, and you can also get to import new music, which hasn't seemed to work for us yet. And of course you get the previous track and next track buttons. But the overall star of the music system is of course the speakers, which are really good sounding and are pretty impressive for a car of this stature. In another thing that is a little surprising, the car doesn't get a rear parking camera by default. It is an optional package, but you do get rear parking sensors by default. Once you shift to the rear, you get a view of the display with the car's sensors active, and when you do reverse your car, so once you do come closer to an obstacle, the sensors go off and show you in a graph based on green, yellow and red as to how close to the obstacle you are, and that is how you get your reverse parking details. Unfortunately, no camera by default, neither do you get a sunroof by default, both of which are a little surprising exclusions from a car that's all about luxury. Now, one of the best parts about the Mini Cooper is the steering wheel. It is a beautifully weighted electric assisted steering wheel. You might be forgiven for thinking that it gives hydraulic feedback. In reality, it almost does, and it feels very solid, very well weighted. It gives you a very good driving feedback. It's really pinpoint. You aim it to whichever part, it will shoot the car right there. It's also a multifunctioning hub. You get cruise control to the left of the steering wheel, and volume controls, voice control, and call, accept and reject to the right of the steering wheel. Beyond that is the instrument cluster, which is fairly neat and short and crisp, so to say. You get the speedometer over here, chrome inlaid, so is the tacho, and the fuel gauge is pretty interestingly an 8-bar identificator, which gives you an idea of how much fuel you have left in the car and when you need to refuel. In terms of the MID, you get a small multicolor LED display over here, which you can change on this and see what are the driving statistics. And you get your time here and your outside temperature, your trip details and everything on the MID. It also shows the vital information as to when you shift gears, if you do shift from auto to manual, and all such details are there within the central console. You get your indicators and light switches to the left and your wiper settings to the right, and unfortunately the new Mini Cooper D does not get paddle shifters. Now I'm seated at the back seat of the Mini Cooper D 5-door, and it might look a little short from outside, but you can sit at the back seat. It's not like you cannot or you'd be extremely cramped. As you can see, I have enough headroom. I have a lot of knee room as well because of the scooped out front seats, but I don't have that good thigh support. I'm sitting a little knee up. I can of course put my feet underneath the seat and get a little better sitting stance, but apart from that, you do not really get an armrest, and you sit a little stiff, so it might be a little uncomfortable for the rear seat passenger for very long drives. Another thing is the difficulty to sit 3 at the back. You get a massive central pillar over here, which makes it difficult for a tall person to sit in the middle, which is very practical because this car is all meant to be for the fun of the drivers. So the thing about the Mini Cooper D 5-door is not about the statistical power that you get. It's powered by a 1.5 litre diesel engine that produces about 115 horsepower of power. And on paper it might not be a lot, but the best part about it is the linear power delivery that just gets the job done. When you're on the highway, you can shoot it up when you get a free stretch off-road, and what makes it even better is the handling, which is very precise, which is ably suited by the steering wheel, and even the transmission is very well measured and calibrated, and as a result you get very smooth shifts. There are no unnatural jerks. The suspension is on the softer side, so you get a more grippy driving response, and that will please a lot of drivers rather than a stiff suspension, which kind of tends to give body roll. You can hit the corners with speed when it comes to this car, and it is the entire confidence of the very sturdy build and the overall driving dynamics that makes this car such a good car to drive. So the Mini Cooper D 5-door might miss out on a few practical elements, but at the end of the day, this is all about the fun of driving. It also gives you a very comprehensive technology package inside, a very good handling, and all things considered, this is one of the ultimate luxury purchase you can make if you have another car for your practical purposes. With that, it's a wrap from the Mini Cooper D 5-door. We'll bring you more such reviews. Stay tuned on digit.in.
Start. चले. चले. Yes. Start. Yes. चले. हाँ. ठीक है. बंद करें. Yes. इसे बंद करें. हाँ इसी.
ready.
Start?
Yes.
ऑडियो आ रहा है ना सही?
हाँ हाँ बड़े स्टार्ट चले स्टार्ट स्टार्ट
You also get petrol stations and parking places in case you would need them. Sir,
Your hand is looking like you have a 16 ka dola.
स्टार्ट स्टार्ट यस
the sensors go off when you tend to come closer to an obstacle.